righty. Good noonday to you. Welcome to Noonday Bible Study. Welcome to the Mount Olive Church. Welcome to Bible Study. Thank you so much for supporting what this church does, both between and beyond the walls of the church. Hope and pray that God is being glorified and you are being edified. You're being encouraged. You're being inspired to represent God wherever you are. So we've been in this series. I think this is about 13th or 14th week, and we've been talking about the power of the tongue, the power of words, the power of expressions, and on and on and on. And so we realize there's much power with what we say, and so we want to yield ourselves to the Holy Spirit that He might get the glory, and we may be vessels of encouragement to all the people that we meet and greet, exchange words, and have conversations with. So we've been talking about this again about 13, 14 weeks, and so we want to address one other area of speech. But just before we do that, want to encourage you to continue to be safe, to be smart, to be sensible, and to be prayerful as, again, we're going through this pandemic. Of course, we all understand that we have this extension for the shelter in place until around the last of this month. And Mount Olive congregation, I love you, I miss you, I can't wait to see you whenever that's going to be. But what's most important is that we are safe, and I want to be a responsible pastor and shepherd and lead you in the best way so that you are not in danger and you are safe, not only for yourself, but also for others. So we'll be saying a few words about that, hopefully in the days to come. But again, that's the new shelter-in-place extension. We are going to observe that, and we're going to continue to do what we have been doing. We're going to do that throughout at least the month of May. But we'll be talking more about that later. But let's get to the Noonday series, and today we're, again, looking at another type of tongue. We've all known people who this particular tongue probably describes them, and it may even be some of us. And so if it is, we just want to be safe. We just want to be careful with how we speak, the choice of words we use, etc. But this loquacious, this long word is just a short word for, you could say, motor mouth. We've all met people who go on and on and on and on. And let me just give you a couple of descriptions of such a tongue. These individuals, you could say that they have windy speech. They can talk long, windy speech. Another description is sometimes they will give what is called needless repetition. They will say the same thing over and over and over again. There's a difference between saying the same thing differently as opposed to saying the same thing the same way. So that's needless repetition. And then another way to describe such a tongue, unending flow. It's almost as if the person doesn't even stop to breathe. They just continue to go on and on and on. And then at great length, or to great length, they can have a conversation for any length of time. So these are descriptive phrases or ways and means we can get a sense of whether this tongue sounds like, what do we need to be aware of. And of course, if this describes us, then there's something we need to do about it, and then there's something we can do about it. So when we get to the first category, why is it that there are some of us who can't stop talking? I had this guy growing up, and this guy would love to talk. He would even talk to stop signs. So, I mean, some people just love to talk. Others may not talk to a stop sign, but they may talk to themselves. We've all known people who have lengthy detail conversations with themselves. And then thirdly, such a person, when they talk over people. They try to talk people out. They try to take over the conversation. Sometimes we've had classes, we've had workshops, and some people you just have to you say, listen, you said enough, let's let somebody else say something. So there are times when people, they just love to talk. And again, this word loquacious is, again, you look at the summation statement, is basically just a big word for motor mouth. Again, individuals goes on and on and on. Well, look at Roman number 2. Why do people talk so much? Here are a couple possible reasons. Number one, individual may just be lonely. You know, sometimes you are near people, but these are people that you cannot talk to. It is possible to be in a room full of people and be lonely. So some people, they are around people, but they cannot talk to people. We all know who we can talk to, and we have a strong feeling as to who we cannot talk to. And so some people have great difficulty opening up, and yet they may get around one or two people that they feel like they can trust, and they will just let that person or those persons have it all. So sometimes an individual in certain situations, in certain settings, around certain people, will go on and on and on. It could be that the person is lonely. But then also a person can be alone. There's a difference between being lonely and being alone. Lonely, again, a person can be around people but don't feel connected, and so therefore they are inward with their thoughts, their opinions, their feelings. They need to talk, but they can't talk to everyone. But when they meet that person or persons, then they just let them have it. They become historical. They reach way back and they move forward with their life stories and so on and so forth. But then individual may talk a lot because they are alone. The difference between lonely and being alone, again, lonely can't talk, but need to, but alone have no one to talk to. There are people who literally have no one in their lives. So many different reasons. And so if someone comes along, then this person, again, will just go with it. Number 3, and we've probably met a few of these, they enjoy hearing their voice. There's a bit of to be self-absorbed there. We talked about that the other day. But there are some people who really love to hear themselves talk. But then number 4, sometimes people talk a lot, they just vent. Sometimes it's because of suppressed experiences that can be mentally, emotionally, and otherwise. And so whenever they get the chance, they are just going to, again, let it go. So some people talk a lot because that's their way of venting. That's their way of getting it out. That's therapeutic for them. People do different things for different reasons. And sometimes you find a person who talks all the time really is a lonely person, really is a person who has so much bottled up and they really want to get it out whenever they can. And so talking is kind of what they do to maintain a sense of sanity and to keep it moving. But here is the challenge. Whatever the motivation, and this is the statement of summation, whatever the motivation, very few people enjoy insistent talkers. Very few people love to be around people who go on and on and on. No one wakes up in the morning and say, I cannot wait for them to talk my ears off. We just don't do that. But again, whatever the motivation, if we are talkers, if we know we speak excessively, if you know we can be talking to someone and they put the phone down, and we never know they put the phone down because they just been going on and on. Somebody go to the bank, come back and pick us and and they never knew we were there because there was no break in the conversation. All right, if you're not laughing, you that person I'm talking about. I'm just teasing. So here again, whatever the motivation, very few people enjoy insistent, excessive talkers. We just don't enjoy that. Well, let's see what the Bible has to say about this particular tongue. Let's first look at Proverbs chapter 10, verse number 19. Proverbs chapter 10, verse number 19. Give you a chance to go there. Proverbs 10, verse number 19. It says, when words are many, transgression is not lacking, but the prudent are restrained in speech. And here again, the proverbial saying is basically what we've been talking about: watch your mouth. We don't have to say anything all the time. We don't have to say something about everything. And so here, sometimes our mouth is what gets us in trouble. You ever seen somebody who put their foot in their own mouth? You ever seen anybody who talking out the side of their neck? I mean, all these different phrases we've heard from time to time. We've even used them. And here again, it is cautioning us in terms of talking excessively. But then we go to Job, chapter 6, and I think it is around verse number 24. Job 6, verse 24. Teach me, and I will be silent. Make me understand how I have gone wrong. Here again, we have to learn how to be quiet. We have to learn when to speak. We have to learn what to speak, but we have to also learn when not to speak. And so here we're talking about individuals, again, who speak excessively, and sometimes it can get them in trouble. And so here Job is saying, Lord, I need you to teach me. I need you to help me to be silent. Here's another passage, Psalm 39, verse number 1. Psalm 39, line number 1. I said, I will guard my ways that I may not sin with my tongue. I will keep a muzzle on my mouth as long as the wicked are in my presence. There again, sometimes people can make you say the wrong things, and sometimes we can make people say the wrong things. So we have to guard our mouths so that we won't allow others to provoke us from saying something that we'll try to, you know how we say, I take that back, I didn't mean that. Well, it has already gone out and has already done its damage. And so here, the psalmist again is reminding us that sometimes the reason why you and I sin is because of what we allow to come from our mouths. And so sometimes before you and I will commit an act, it will be a thought, and then it will be spoken, and then it becomes a deed. So we have to be careful again with the words that we speak. You can get a sense of where a person is by what they say. And so listen to how people say, and you'll get a sense of what they think, and then you will also have some idea of what they will do. So words matter. So again, Lord, please muzzle our mouths as long as the wicked are in our presence. Then 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Let's go there. New Testament, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Paul says in that 11th verse, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse number 11, to inspire to live quietly. This word aspire, some translations would say study. And here it means to study implies intense effort. It is not something that just happens, but you've got to be intentional. It has to be a goal. It has to be a strategy. It has to be something that you are willing to sacrifice in order to bring to pass. For some people, it's a sacrifice to be quiet. So whatever it is, Paul is saying here, study. He says to aspire to live quietly, to mind your own affairs, and to work with your hands as we directed you. Notice Paul, he talks about one's overall life, but he also includes the mouth. Talks about our overall activity, our overall behavior, but he also is talking here about the tongue. The same way you have to plan your life out, the same way you have to set goals for your life, you have to also set goals for how you speak. That's what he is saying there. It all goes together. All right? Let me pause down and see if we have any questions about this particular tongue. All right? Let's look at the statement of summation for Roman number 3. Learn to take pleasure in listening to others more than talking to others. Now remember that word study, and you remember what Job said, teach me. We need help. We need help with what we say and when we say it, and sometimes it's just best not to say anything. So learn to take pleasure in listening to others as opposed to leading the conversation, always doing the talking, etc. Well, look at Roman number 4. Again, there's always help. There's always another way that we can communicate. And again, here, if this is the type of tongue we have, this motor mouth, if this is something we're struggling with, we can go in the opposite direction. We can make a U-turn. So here are a couple of applications for this. Number 1, stop talking. Okay, you can go to Menards and you can get Gorilla Glue. You can get, I'm just saying, you can put some Gorilla Glue like chapstick, put it on and you keep your mouth closed. Well, stop talking. All right, just stop. Okay, just that's the first one. Stop talking. Let people do the talking, and you respond to their conversation. So stop talking. That's one. Here's number 2, and it's a part of stop talking. Allow others to talk more. Okay, we've all been in situations where we people said, I said I wasn't gonna say nothing, but I can't. No, you don't have to. You really don't have to. We've seen this at funerals. I was sitting back there, and I know they said 2 minutes, but yeah, you really don't have to do that. So in intimate settings or in large settings, if we know we love to talk, we're going to have to exercise some discipline. And sometimes, again, it's just, we don't have to say something just for the sake of saying something. Allow others to talk more. Then number 3, say something worth saying. We've been in a situation where people will say something, it don't fit. I mean, it's not a part of the subject at hand. It's not a part of the discussion. And sometimes people will try to take over the conversation by taking it somewhere else. And then we've got to get all the way back, center our context in terms of what was taking place. So we want to say something worth saying. For some of us, it's hard for us to say, no, I have nothing to say. No comment. Nope, thank you, but I'm good. For some of us, again, it's hard. We have to say something. We have to put our 2 cents. We have to add something. So if that's the challenge, then we want to exercise some discipline. Then number 4, here's the 4th step, action step. Choose words carefully. Okay? We are in trouble if we speak and then think. We need to think before we speak. We need to prepare what we're going to say. And sometimes we don't have time to write it down to say it, but we can think first. So choose words carefully. And lastly, here is this statement of summation. When I hold my tongue, I am considered wise. There's not a lot of people who know how to be quiet. And we want to learn how to be quiet. We want the Lord to teach us that. We want to be disciplined as it relates to the timing and the choice of words. So we want to be considered to be wise. Then there's that statement that I saw a few days ago. The quieter, I want you to see that if you can, the quieter you become, the more you can hear. Say that again. The quieter you become, the more you can hear. All right? Do we have any questions? All right? Okay. The question, what about the person who does not realize they talk too much? And if you say something, would that be an example of the rude tongue? No, it would not. Again, it's not sometimes what you say, it's how you say it. And I think if we have an individual who goes on and on and on, instead of them saying, listen, you know what, you get on my nerves. Well, do you ever? No, that's rude. You just say, before you begin today, let me just say this to you. I enjoy talking to you, but what I really need to say is I enjoy listening to you because I don't ever get a chance to talk. I would love for us to have a dialogue and it not be a monologue where one of us is talking. So, love you, friend, so forth. I need you to know that you really talk too much. Yeah. So tell them. Yeah. They'll be all right. They know you love them. They know you don't mean no harm. And then sometimes don't be available. But there's a risk in that because they're going to double up on you. I called you the other day, and you didn't answer, but I'm glad I got you now. And there you go. So I hope you got 2 hours. All right. Any other questions on this particular tongue? Okay. Again, we love to talk. We enjoy talking. But we want to make sure that people enjoy talking to us. And again, that's two-way. We love to talk, but we also want to be known as people who love to listen, talk to, and listening and so forth. All right? We good? All right. Nope. You really don't want to say shut up unless you sometimes you can get away with that. All right, depending upon the setting, that's on the type of relationship you have. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully you've learned something else about this particular tongue. And again, the words we use, they have power. They are powerful. And so we want to use our tongues wisely. So God will be glorified and people will be encouraged, they'll be inspired, and they'll be edified. Again, be safe, be sensible, be smart, be prayerful. Hopefully you will join us tomorrow night as we will pick up with Exodus chapter 15, sea songs. Again, we're talking about facing these Red Seas, getting through these Red Seas, and how we look to God during those particular times. So be safe. Have a great rest of the day. Love you. God bless you. Take care. See, it ain't taking long to talk, is it?